Exports from Kirkuk fields held by the Kurdish regional government stood at 650,000 barrels per day. Iraqi Oil Minister Jaber al-Luwaibi has asked British energy giant BP for help to double the area's output to more than 1 million barrels per day. According to BP, Kirkuk now has an estimated 9 billion barrels of recoverable oil remaining. In May, the government approved the construction of a $5 billion refinery in Kirkuk. And within OPEC, Iraq is the second largest producer, and Kurdish-controlled areas were among the most productive in the country. Now, Ellen Wald joins us from Jacksonville in Florida. She's an energy expert and the author of the upcoming book, Saudi Inc., and also a scholar at the Arabia Foundation. Thanks so much for joining us, Miss Wald. Now,
thank you.
Please tell me about how and why Baghdad has told BP to so quickly develop oil fields in Kirkuk. Why is Baghdad in such a rush?
So BP used to be developing Kirkuk's oil. In fact, they pulled out in 2015 when the KRG forces came into Kirkuk. And I think one of the reasons that Iraq would like BP to come back very quickly is both to develop the resources up to their capacity, but also because it would help the central government in Baghdad cement its control over the oil fields in Kirkuk, which are some of the most productive in Iraq.
Now, Baghdad says it wants to double Kirkuk's oil output and get it back to more than 1 million barrels per day. Is that going to be an easy task?
I think it will be challenging. There's definitely going to be a lot of infrastructure that will need to be updated and developed, and the region is not an easy one to work in. However, since BP did do a lot of the initial infrastructure development there, they're the natural choice to come back in and get that place really up and running at a much higher level. On the other hand, you still have to consider the fact that Iraq is subject to these limitations given the OPEC quotas right now.
And what impact do you think this will have on markets?
I think that the impact now, the short-term impact, is really very variable. We're not really sure how much oil has been shut in during this whole process. It seems that most of it is still flowing, that there was maybe a minor interruption, but the situation is really ongoing. And if there is a big disruption, then we will see a big impact on markets because Iraq is a major producer. And
specifically on oil prices, what effect do you think it will have on oil prices? Will they come down?
I think that if Iraq definitely increases its production, that would push oil prices down. Right now, because of the instability, we're really not sure. Oil prices are very variable because of it. We've seen some slight jumps when it appeared that oil production might be cut off, but then definitely very steep jumps back down also. So right now it's very volatile, and Iraq is playing a major role in this.
And let's talk about the news with regards to BP today. How symbolic is it that BP has been chosen to develop these oil fields? And what does it mean for BP itself?
So BP is definitely Iraq's first choice because they were the ones who were in there beforehand, and then they left in 2015. And it's also significant because other major IOCs have been pulling out of Iraq as of late. I believe Exxon and another company pulled out of developing some other fields in Iraq earlier. And Iraq would like to entice these companies to come back. And if BP comes back, then other ones will likely come back as well.
OK, and BP's CEO, Bob Dudley, said, to quote him, that there would be a lot to do to develop the Kirkuk oil fields. How much is there to do exactly?
Well, I'm not really on the ground there, so it will really depend on the kind of infrastructure degradation and destruction that we've seen. Plus, if they want to increase their oil production, they want to double it, they're definitely going to have to do some significant development, particularly to maintain pressure in these kinds of oil fields. You need a lot of engineering and development to do that. But there's also, I mean, BP is clearly, I can understand why BP is their first choice to do this, but it's questionable whether BP is even going to want to come back now to this.
Interesting. Questionable. Let's see what happens. Ellen Wald, thank you so much for your insights. That was Ellen Wald, energy expert for us in Florida.